Today's episode is with the quite fantastic Hannah Barnes. Just as a quick disclaimer, she does go by Hannah Bewley now, having married the former pro Sam Bewley. But in terms of her sporting career and on-road achievements, she is Hannah Barnes. So there is that distinction, and that's why we are saying this is an episode with Hannah Barnes. We talk about quite a lot of things. It's a very long chat. I'm going to talk about her as a sports agent, as well as her route into cycling, and just her career. And it's truly remarkable to see what she's done with it. There is some audio that I've had to clean up. Hopefully it sounds all right. Do let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see, or if anything that wasn't quite right here. And yeah, otherwise just do enjoy. Hi, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, it's hump week, Wednesday, but no, I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's been a week, I feel. I don't know about you, but it's one of the weeks of all time.
Yeah.
So
It's end of the season, so everything's slowly just coming to a wrap. But no, it's
yeah, actually thinking about is the off season for you? Because in your current role as a rider agent, is it a busy time, or is it a time where you go, okay, we did the hard work in the season, now we get to see the press releases and see the riders joining their new teams and keeping them happy? Is this a busy point for you?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, we've got some contracts that are still being finalised, so it's just making sure they're all good for the rider to sign off on, and then really it's just the last few contracts that I'm trying to get done. But I reckon I think I'll always, when it gets to middle of October, I'll always have that off-season feeling, because it's it was such a big part of my life for so long, is the October wind down. So I think I'll always get that little feeling.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it from my perspective as well. It's when you're at school for so long, and then it's every time September hits, you're like, oh, new school term. I mean, I've got kids, so I've still got that. But even before then, I was always in that mode of thinking, oh, it's a new year whenever September hits, not January. January's not the start of the year, really. I guess as a cyclist, you're like, yep, off season, it's October.
No, I feel like it's a bit of a reset. I think for a lot of people in cycling, everyone has a little bit of a breather, whether you're working in a team as a staff member or a rider. For us, it just slowly ticks over. There's never really stops, but there is a downtime, a bit of a lull. You don't want to be pestering any riders during their holiday in the Maldives or something, So for us, it's just about managing, giving riders time to just chill out and recover, and then it starts so early now. You have to really think about we're already thinking and talking to teams about 2027. So it's
wow.
Now it's definitely made a change from there's no real off for us.
Yeah, and there's so much I want to discuss about this sort of new role for you, and I was going to save it for later, but let's dive in. How did you even get into being a rider agent? Was that something you kind of had ambitions for a long time, or was it quite a sudden shift for you?
So I knew that the last 2 years of my career, the last contract I signed, I knew it was my last one. So for those 2 years, I just was kind of always trying to work out what I was going to do after. Spent a lot of time on LinkedIn. But I definitely put my voice out there that I was going to stop, and I just needed to find the next thing to do. And I just felt like there was not a gap, but definitely somewhere that female cyclists need people to look after them. You can be part of an agency, a big agency, but it's hard competing with the guys, they're earning millions. So I just felt there was always like I didn't feel it myself in particular, but I just felt like there needed someone there that like a rider can feel like they're 100% confident and they trust an agent to just be backing them and looking after them. And that's what I wanted to do. And also, I really like the idea, like my last 2 years at UNOX, so I came into the team, I was like the experienced rider, so I was there as kind of looking after and being almost a mentor for the young riders that are coming through, like the 19, 20-year-olds. And I enjoy that. Like it's good. I've had a lot of experiences in my career. So it was really nice to share them and just share like everything I've learned in those 10 years of being professional, just sharing it with the riders. And I just felt like I'd love to bring that to an actual, when I stopped riding and I wasn't actually in the peloton, to be able to bring that into my career. It was something I really wanted to do.
Yeah, and you mentioned like you knew that final contract was going to be your final one. Like how do you tell when the time is right to step away from being an active cyclist, or certainly an active professional cyclist?
I always say my body let me down.
Okay.
I had a few injuries and niggles. Not really when I signed the contract for UNOX, I didn't have them yet, but I could definitely tell like I didn't have the fight. Like when you're like a young rider, you see a gap that's not big enough for you to go through, but you make it big enough, But I got to the point when I was just like in the peloton and I could just feel like I was a little bit scared. I wasn't taking as many risks as I was. And you really need that to be competitive. You need to like have that mindset of just like do or die pretty much. And I just didn't have that anymore. But I knew I just had like a little bit more to give. And I also really liked the idea of like UNOX. I was there in the year it started, and they had a really nice, like their program and their ambition and their plan for those like that year was exciting. I just wanted to be part of it. But I had just a few injuries. In 2015, I broke my ankle and I was off the bike for a long time. Like I was on crutches for 5 months, pretty much, no weight. And that just kind of, I was a sprinter before that, and that just kind of changed my physique. I lost quite a lot of muscle, and it took a long time to build that up. And then I think just also lockdown, I spent lockdown in Andorra, and I spent a long time just static on the turbo, on the trainer. And I think all of that, like the weakness on the right side, and then just sitting static, like no movement for pretty much 3 months. I think, I ended up having 2 herniated discs for pretty much the last 2 years of my career, which we're not really sure where it came from, but I think it was stemming from just like, muscle loss and also just staying in one spot for hours and hours and hours over that time. I think that's kind of just, when you're just constantly, every pedal stroke you have is in pain, I think that just takes a little of the fun out of it. So I definitely knew that I was coming to the end, and I was happy with that. I was finishing my career where I was like, I wasn't sad about it. I was like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing.
Yeah, I guess it's that like acceptance maybe that you're like, okay, that part of me is done, and that making peace with it, I suppose. And certainly from the way you talk about rider agency, you sound like you certainly sound very passionate about it, and that your heart's with the rider, and almost like you're a natural at it. Like, did you find that transition easy?
I would say not easy, no, because it was, I think just the whole adjustment. Like I finished racing, I didn't have to train anymore. I had like, for me, I had like a purpose. There was no time or gap where I didn't know what I was doing. Like I finished my last race. The next day I was in Amsterdam having the interview for the job at SEG.
Wow.
So it was kind of all just like, it all just kind of fell into place a little bit. But yeah, I would say like just being there, I feel like I'd like to think I'm approachable, where any rider that we have, they wouldn't second guess just messaging me or ringing me if they have a question or a doubt or anything. So I think that's like a thing that I'm like, I'm happy with. That I feel like I can really share some knowledge if I've got I've got a couple of juniors that are going to make the transition into the under 23 category, and for me, like I don't really see myself as their agent. Like that's scary when you say a 19-year-old's got an agent. But I kind of see myself as like a mentor for them, like someone that they can just ring if they've got any questions. They can contact me whenever they want to. But then I've also got riders that are at another stage of their career where it's more like, this is the team I want to go to. How do we make this happen and things like that? So it's I felt like there's definitely parts of the job that I at the start really struggled with. But luckily SEG, they have a great onboarding. It's a huge company, so they we had 4 weekends where we would just go to the offices. We've got an office in Barcelona, Amsterdam, Manchester, everywhere. So we use those I use those courses to really understand and learn how to do the job and how to approach it. And then I also have the other agents that we have there that I can just, if I've got a question, I'll just pick up the phone and ring them and just be like, hey, I've just got this message. I don't really know how to deal with it. Can you just help me? And they'll do that. So I think if I was starting an agency on my own, it would have crashed and burned. But becoming joining a SEG, like an agency that's been around for so long and has so many clients and experience, I think was really valuable for me.
Yeah, and it's great that they're kind of, through you, they're kind of making waves in the women's scene as well as the men's. Because I know they had Fabio Jakobsen and I think Ethan Vernon maybe as a SEG rider.
Yeah, Ethan Vernon, Corbin Strong, Olav Koy. Yeah, loads.
Exactly. It's like
riders, But I think, we have Pauline Fran-Prevost, so we like to say that we have won the Tour de France Femmes, which is pretty cool, and Kristen Faulkner, Olympic champion. So on both sides, we've got some really great athletes.
Yeah, and it's great that you're kind of representing the whole board though, because it's, you've got Tour de France Femme winner, you've got the Olympic champion, but you've also got the juniors making their transition to next year. And it's not just serving the kind of high profile, it almost feels like it's representing everyone almost.
No, for sure.
And what's actually you have alluded to some of it where you're helping riders find teams and kind of a mentorship role, but what's actually involved? Because I assumed it was just, sorting a contract, done, life's easy, I guess it gets a bit busy in what they call silly season around August where everyone gets announced, but 1 or 2 peaks a year. But what actually is involved in being a rider agent?
I would say a lot of the time, a lot of communication. You have to have really good relationships with obviously the clients you have, but the teams as well. Because sometimes you could be ringing these teams, 2 or 3 times a day, trying to finalize things. So I think just it's really important to have good relationships. I've realized that cycling is a very small world and a small circle. So it's lucky I didn't annoy anyone or upset anyone during my career. I like to think so anyway. But it starts quite early now. When I was a rider, it was only 2 years ago, but it feels like it was 10 years ago now. So it comes pretty much December training camps is, if teams have December training camp, it's pretty much when it all starts. I think sometimes if you've got a contracts pretty much run every 2 years, and I really didn't want to be someone that for that month or 2 months when you're figuring out a contract and organising all of that, that's when you have the communication with the rider, and then it just stops for 2 years. I just wanted to be the person that you're just anything. If you want to have a call, I live in Andorra, which is a pretty cool place to live, and I can just, if I want to, and a rider's got an easy day and we just want to have a catch up, then I'll just be like, let's just go for a ride together. I just think it makes it a little bit more informal than just sitting down and having a really serious meeting. I just want to keep it friendly, and just make sure they really believe that and try. I think it's just the most important thing with the rider and agent relationship is the trust, that they really trust that I'm, even though they can't see me doing it, that I am doing everything I can to make their next step in their career a good one.
Yeah, and you mentioned how like cycling is a small world, and you see elements of it in the sort of I'm going to say politics, but in the kind of
Mm-hmm.
like allegiances that where you're like, oh, we'll chase today and help you out, or in the breakaway, like let's ride together. But then it's kind of that uneasy relationship, I guess. But like, were there ever teams that I don't know, maybe one of their riders cut you up in a race and you're like, oh, actually, I don't really like that team. And then since you've gone into agency and worked with them, you're like, oh, actually, that's reshaped my kind of understanding of that team or how I perceived them.
Mm. Yeah, I made a promise to myself quite early on in my career that I would never judge anyone's personality off how they race. Because your emotions are just so high in a, like, 10 kilometers to go in a sprint stage. Like, that's not your true personality coming out. That's like a under pressure, stressful personality. So I kind of made a pact to myself, like, I'd be like, I just don't like this person. I don't like them. But the only interaction I've ever had is in a race peloton, when it's just stressful. And then you'll go for a training ride with them and do 4 hours and just chat the whole time. And then you're like, oh, you're great. So I don't think I've ever really had that feeling of, you did this to me in this race in 2018. I don't like you anymore. It was more just like, you must have been having, like, I don't know what your team meeting was like. I don't know what you're getting through on the radio. But that's how it is, like you hear so many stories of like, oh, I don't like this person did this to me. And especially like when you get onto the team bus after the race, you're like, this person, they did this. But you have to kind of just like draw a line under it and just be like, okay, on to the next one. Because if you thought like that and took what everyone did seriously, then yeah, you'd hate everyone in the peloton, really. So
yeah, I guess it'd be really easy to get almost to isolate yourself through just disliking everyone, and
sometimes like you could get to the situation where the next year or in 2 years' time they're your teammate, and if you've like publicly said you don't like that person, then it's going to be quite awkward. So no, I think it's really important to, like, you might have a valid reason, you might actually not like that person, but a lot of the time, if you're in a race, it's not their true, it's not them coming out, it's the race head coming out.
Yeah, it's similar to rugby as well, where it's like everyone hates each other on the field, and then as soon as you're off, you're like drinking pints in the bar, like everyone's just happy and mates, and it's like it's so funny how that works, and it's like, yeah, on the bike you can be almost vitriolic towards one another, and then as soon as you're off, you're like, yeah, cool, it's all good. It's actually reminded, when you were speaking, I was like, there's certain riders that I remember, because we're similar in age. I raced the Isle of Man Youth Tour as a junior once. I remember Tim Kenyig. I found that he was quite like shouty and kind of a bit of a jokester. I was like, oh, I bet he's like, there was something about him that like I was like, oh, I don't know. And then since hearing him like in interviews and off the bike, I'm like, oh, actually no, he sounds like a pretty sound guy. But it's just in the moment you kind of get that judgment, and as you said, like,
I think as you mature as well, like me 12 years ago is probably pretty different to now. Like, I've got a child now, so I have to mature. But I think when you're like young and you're successful and everything's going well and you don't really know anything about the real world, it's different. But now it's like you just mellow out of it and just kind of keep in your lane. So
yeah, well, as you brought up 12 years ago, let's go towards the sort of start of your career. Like, how did you even get into cycling? Like,
so I was actually born in Kent. So my mum and dad were farmers, so they met at farming college. And then we moved to Oxfordshire when I was 2. But that's kind of where mum and dad started to do some riding. My dad did it a lot when he was a kid, but that was kind of just riding to school pretty much, or doing like the South Downs way. But nothing was ever competitive. And then when we moved to Oxford, they got a little bit more into it. And then when I was 7, we followed the farms. So when I was 7, Dad got a job on another farm in Northamptonshire in Toaster. And that's kind of where it all started. When I was 10, I think something had broken on Dad's mountain bike. So we went to a shop in Milton Keynes called Phil Corley Cycles, which if you're from Milton Keynes or that area, you'll know that shop. And there was a poster on the door just saying, every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, there's kids racing at the Milton Keynes Bowl, like the concert ground. So Dad was like, let's go and just see how it goes, take you down there. So it kind of, every week it was different. So one week was road racing, one week was mountain bike, and then one week was just skills.
Okay.
So we do some racing, and then like one Wednesday was just do skills, like pick up bottles off the ground, like go in and out cones. And it just turned out that we were actually, I was good. Alice and Henry, they were actually, my brother, he's the youngest, he was really good too, but he just, he thought it was crazy that we would just go around and race our bikes and train in the rain and the cold. So he never really took onto it. But I think when you're a 10-year-old and you do a sport and you love it and you're good at it, then you kind of just go from there. But I was always sporty. Like at school, I would do rugby, football, hockey, netball, rounders, just whatever there was, I was doing it. So cycling was just a thing I did the weekends. And then I got, when I was about 16, when I was 13, I joined the British Cycling Talent Team program. So I started doing track racing then. And that's actually when we moved from Milton Keynes Club, Team Keen, to Reading, Palm Park Velo.
Okay.
Just because my cousins got into the sport, and Reading was like the halfway point. So we'd meet there every Saturday, and that's how we got to see each other. And then I kind of I enjoyed track. Like I was doing a lot of mountain biking before, and cyclocross and road racing. And then when track was introduced, it's like such a big thing for British cycling, you know, like track racing on the velodrome. It was like just the way that you kind of watch telly, really watch the sport. But I didn't really enjoy it that much. I just felt like I was just a bit of a robot, just going round and round in circles. And I was offered a spot on the podium program, like the track program in 2013. But back then it was kind of like you couldn't do any road racing. You had to live in Manchester. And for me, I just was like, what I love is going to all these different places and racing the road and just being outside. And just for me, I was like, I know there's probably potentially a guaranteed Olympic medal if I could do well on the track. But for me, it just didn't give me the motivation. So then when I was 19, I spent a year in Britain in MG Maxi Fuel. And then when I was in 19, I went to America. And I joined United Healthcare there, which was great. Like I lived in America for 2 years. I went to, I don't know, like over 20 states, you know. So I really got to see everything. And it was kind of how like the men have got the under 23 program, whereas the women don't. You go from junior straight into the elite. Like I did that in 2012. And I was like racing, just on junior races, and then I was next to Nicole Cook and Mariana Voss. You know, it was just a bit surreal. Whereas when I went to America, I kind of felt like that was my middle ground of like where I could really learn how to race and how to win.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, I won a stage at the Tour of Britain, which is kind of when I was like, who's this girl? And that's when I joined Canyon-SRAM, and I was there for 6 years.
Yeah. And then obviously you moved on to UnoX, as you said, like for the start of their project. But like, what really motivated to move from Canyon after being there for so long, and like, yeah, especially with Alice being there as well. Like, you two were kind of, I wouldn't say, well, actually, yeah, I'm gonna say it. You were kind of synonymous with the team. Like, I'd look at
Yeah.
Canyon and go, oh yeah, that's the Barnes' team. Like, they're there, and then you moved on,
Mm.
and so did Alice eventually as well. Like, what prompted that move?
So that year I was fifth in Het Nieuwsblad.
Mm,
And after that, Lars Back, who was working at Uno X, who was on the men's side and who was coming across to work on the women's side, contacted me in April and just they wanted a call, they were interested. So I had that call, and then I asked Canyon-SRAM, like, I've got this offer. But they weren't, at that moment, they weren't in the position to give me a contract, offer me a contract.
mm.
And I wasn't feeling confident that I wanted to wait and see if I didn't feel like I was in the position to say no to Uno X and wait and hold out that Canyon would give me a contract. And I just felt like I was ready for something different. Like, I'd been at Canyon for 6 years, and like how Uno X were going to see me as kind of a rider that could come in. Like, they were using it as like a Scandinavian development team with young riders, but also riders that were there that could perform, but also help, advise, and be like road captain. And I just liked the idea of that. I think it was where I was in my career and my like where I was then. I think that was like a really good step for me to take.
Yeah, it sounds like super interesting. I hear that kind of mentorship that you sort of espouse in agency as well, like coming through. And looking back at your career, like, was there? 'Cause you've had plenty of wins and plenty of top results. Like, is there a particular one that you're like, oh, this is my real standout that I'm the most proud of?
In my career,
Yeah.
I in 2018 when we won the team time trial championships, the Worlds in Innsbruck, that was like a big highlight for me. I think winning a race is cool, but winning a team time trial and celebrating like all of you on the podium together is like nothing would ever top that feeling. And we'd put a lot of hard work into that. Like, we went to Innsbruck 10 days before. We'd ridden that course. We counted 10 times before we did the race run. So it was like for us, it was a huge target for us like the whole year. And I also think we went into that race as the underdogs. Like, no one really thought, oh, Canyon, like, they could win this. And we were also the only team that finished with all 6 riders. And I think that really showed how strong we were as a unit, that all 6 of us were able to finish. Like, we looked after each other. So I think for me, like, that was like, if anyone says like, what's your proudest moment, that would definitely have been it. But then I also think like an individual win would be when I won the Giro stage in 2017.
Okay.
Like, it was, I never would have thought I'd win a stage, you know, like, it was a sprint one, and like Kirsten Wild was there, you know, like one of the biggest sprinters I've ever raced. So for me, that was like pretty big. It was nationals in Isle of Man that year. I was going in as defending champion, and I knew it was going to be hard. I knew I wasn't going to win, but I gave it a good go. And I just remember that night, actually, Pete Kenner was doing like a charity evening, and I'd gone over to the Isle of Man with my dad, and he was like, "Oh, do you want a drink?" And I was like, "Oh, nah, I'm good. I've got the Giro." And he was like, "Come on, like, you need to live a little." Like, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll have one." And then it turned into just like having like one turned into a few. And then like I did, like 2 days later was at the Giro and then won stage 3. And I really believe like you have to be so switched on all the time. And now the seasons are so long. Like, you're racing in January and you're finishing in October. The seasons are so long, and I really believe like because I probably didn't, but because I let my hair down for that one night, like I kind of came out of it like a bit refreshed. Like it was mid-season, and it is, you just focus all the time, and I just feel like because I had that little let my hair down night, I just went into the Giro as like because I knew I was going well. Like that nationals, that time trial, it was my best 20-minute power of my whole career. So I knew I was going well. So I was like, okay, I can afford to have a little bit of a boozy night. But like I look back on that and just think like, yeah, like it's good that he said that to me, because I know that if I'd done that, like I just would have you're just on all the time. And I think that's why, like, when teams do race calendars now, it's so important to have like a little mid-season break where riders can just like mentally, like physically refresh, but also mentally. I think you're like, yeah, you get 1 month off in October, but you're still always in the back of your mind like, oh, if I go too hard for this month, it's going to be a harder, like my November and December are going to be harder, you know, like, so you don't really like relax. So I think it's good to just like take those little pockets of time in the season to just like have a little bit of a breather and just like take your mind off it a little bit.
Yeah, it's because like one of our previous guests I spoke to, like she was talking about overtraining and how that can be like a real danger, because you're like, everyone wants to be the best, and like, well, to be the best, I've got to do lots of riding, like, because that's what the best do, and they can keep going and they're super strong, so therefore I have to work out harder. I have to kind of out train everyone. Like, is it Chris Boardman who's used to, you know, he used to train on Christmas Day because he's like, he knew no one else would. And it's like, well, like as I'm getting older as well, I'm like, the whole point of life is just to enjoy yourself. Like, it's too short to just put yourself through the mill year on year. It's just a quick way to burn out. It's like, how much are you sort of kind of helping riders to go, look, to race well, you also have to recover well?
I try not to get involved with any of that. Like it's not my place. They've all got a coach. Either they have their own coach or the team supply it. But yeah, I think now, like, it's just got the science behind everything's just huge now, you know. Like before, you think, oh, if I did a 35-hour week, that's great, like that's exactly what I need to do. Whereas now it's like a 17-hour week is like a big week. Like just a lot of it, like I did used to love the build up in November and December, like just hours on the bike. Especially living in Girona, like it was blue skies, it's cold, but it was just like the perfect, like it was my favorite time of year. And everyone's just kind of, they've had their break, they're coming back, and they're all just like a little bit more motivated. But yeah, I think now it's like definitely a lot of, and people are also like, a lot of riders are coming out and saying like, I overtrained, I'm not healthy anymore. Like the amount of riders that can't race because they're sick or something, or they just put their body under so much strain that they just can't physically recover. And a lot of riders are speaking out about that, which is great. And you've got a lot of professionals as well. Like pretty much every team have their own internal coaches, which is great. You know, like riders have that support exactly there. Like, and everyone within the team knows exactly what's happening and everyone's doing. But yeah, it's funny. Like looking back over my career, like when I stopped, I started doing some coaching with Synergy, the company, and like I did some research and like looked into it a lot, and I was just like, man, I wish I'd done this in my career, because I would have made a few differences. You learn, like my coaches used to go rip their hair out, because I just if they said do 3 hours, I'd be doing 4. You know, like I'd always just want to, like, if I had like a 18-hour week planned, I was doing like a 21-hour week. Just because I was like, oh, 3 hours, it doesn't seem like enough, I'm going to do 4. Whereas I'm thinking, oh, if I'd actually listened to them, then maybe I would have had a bit of a more successful career, you know. So I think that's the thing with riders. Sometimes we think we know best, whereas we don't. You know, we're good at riding our bike, but we don't know the best way to prepare. So Yeah, I think the most important thing for a rider is to have like that good support network around them.
Yeah, definitely. And as we said, like it sounds like you're helping to provide that and pave the way for the next generation. I was going to ask, like, do you feel like the same pressure that riders do when it comes to like end of contract? You're like, okay, rider X is going to be up for renewal next year, and compared to how it was as a rider, where you're like, okay, I know I'm in a contract year, I've got to get good results, or I've got to make sure I'm looking for the next team because this is my livelihood. Do you feel that same pressure as an agent, or how? If it is different, how is it different?
I probably feel the pressure a bit more.
Okay.
To be honest, I would say I was very, very lucky over my career, where I never felt stressed. I think the latest I ever signed a contract was June.
Wow.
So I was quite blessed with that. But no, I feel a lot of pressure. Like sometimes I struggle to get to sleep because I'm just like, oh gosh. So yeah, like I've already been going through it. The riders I've got up for next year, I've already been having calls with riders about like how they want to approach it and what teams they really can see themselves in, if they want to stay at the team they're currently in. So yeah, I think it is different. I sometimes think like, why am I doing this? I've literally got a lot of riders that I'm getting a contract for, and it's stressful, but it's really rewarding. Like when you finally get when you can finally tell that rider, right, all good to go. Then it's really rewarding. So no, I'm lucky enough that I've got a lot of riders that they're especially grateful as well. Like they really appreciate all the work that I do. And it's hard for me because, I'm just at home in Andorra. Like no one really sees me doing it. So that's the thing. But I really I feel like they all do believe and trust me that I'm doing everything I can to secure their career and make sure that all the decisions that are being made, I really look that I'm like a soundboard for a lot of them as well. Like if you've got riders that have a number of teams interested, which is a good position to be in, but sometimes it's a tricky one as well because that decision could potentially be the one that kind of molds your career. So I think for riders, it's really good for them to also. I feel like now as well, riders are happy speaking to other riders about it. If say you're on one team and Trek, for example, want to sign you, a lot of riders feel like they can really approach another rider and say, hi, like the team looks great from the outside, but I want perspective from a rider that's part of that team, which is really good. Like I was in the peloton a while, but I didn't race for that many teams. So I can't say this team, they do this there. This is really great. I mean, for me now, I've got a really good understanding because I sit on lots of Zoom calls between riders and teams. So now I have a really good understanding. But I think from a rider's side, they really like hearing from a rider, this is the situation. I trust you, to give me your honest opinion. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of things I was going to ask. One of them's gone from my mind, so I'll wait until that one reappears. But the other one was going to be if a rider comes to you. Oh, I've remembered both now. Good. If a rider comes to you and says "Hey, I really want to sign for this team," do you do you find that an easy situation, or do you go, "Oh, what if they're not interested?" How do you approach that situation? Because I know you said earlier about sometimes riders have an ideal team in mind, and that might not always be possible.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be realistic, and I'll never give a rider fake hope.
Yeah.
But if a rider's this is my dream team, then I'll do everything I can to get a call with them at least. So that the team can really get to know the rider. I'll always try and make sure that there's there's a call that's happened there. But a lot of the time, like riders are quite realistic. I don't have anyone that's just like, I want this. Like I want to be at the best team ever, and I'm 20 years old with no results.
Yeah.
And I think everyone knows that it's like there's stepping stones you have to make. And I think that's what's really nice about a lot of the riders I have is that no one believes they should have more than they deserve. Which is, I think it's a good quality to have. Like no one's just like, I want this and I want it now, but no, if a rider's like, this is like my dream team, then I'll definitely put a lot more effort into making sure that there's a conversation that happens. But I'll never give them sense of like fake hope, it's not really fair.
Yeah, of course.
But it's like everyone, like when I was a kid, and I mean, back then Orica Green Edge was like the team that everyone wanted to be on, like they were having fun, they had backstage pass, like that was my dream team, and I did everything I could. Didn't get there, but like it was the team that I emailed the most, like I'd follow up all the time.
Wow.
So I think for me, like I've been there. I didn't have someone doing it for me back then, but no, I know what it's like to have a team you just really want to be on. But
yeah, and like you mentioned, like about a rider having multiple options, and that can be, certainly season defining, if not career defining. Like, what, like, is there ever a situation where they sign and then they're like, they turn up to team camp in December and they're like, oh, I made a mistake here. Like, has that happened, or like how would you even handle that? Because that sounds to me like a nightmare.
No, I've not had that, but I've only been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
But no decision is made lightly or fast. Like there's like 2 or 3 calls with that team and that rider. So every question that a rider has or a team has is answered. And then a lot of the time you'll be like, okay, there's a lot of riders out of contract on the team. Who's coming in? Who's being re-signed? Just so you know that, the setup of the team. But I've never had that. But I would say that it's probably quite unlikely that would happen. Maybe it could happen after 1 year, which is why some riders have their contracts broken and it gets quite messy.
Yes, as we're seeing currently with a couple of cases.
Yeah, but I think, no decision is like an overnight one. Like a lot of teams respect that a rider needs to really think about it. And it's not just, sometimes it can't just be solved with just throwing money at everything, like it's a feeling. Like I'll never tell a rider, go here, like sign for this team. Like it's not my decision to make. But I'm like their sounding board, so they can ring me and we could just spend an hour on the phone with like pros and cons of why I should go to this team or why I should go to that team and what's going to be good and bad. Because like if you go to a team that's not great for you, then you never know. Like your career could potentially be shorter or longer. So it's just about like managing that. And I think it's important for teams like riders to understand what they want, like what kind of team they want, what they want from themselves. Like, are they at the point where they're actually just happy being a helper? Like they want to go to a team where they just want to help, but they want to help someone that's winning the races. Or do they want to go to a lower team where they want to be the leader and they want to be there fighting for the win? So I think it's just about riders like trying to figure out what they want from themselves and what they want from their career.
Yeah, because like how much information do you get? Because you mentioned like discussing with teams about signings and things like that. Like, do you get to hear about transfers that are coming up where you're like, okay, I've got this sprinter I represent, but I've also heard that, let's use Trek as an example, like Trek have re-signed Jonathan Milan and they're going to sign another sprinter to be his kind of understudy, so they don't need a third rider. Like, do you get to know those things, or do you just have to, I don't want to say represent blind, but you know what I mean, with like less information?
No, so I try to, like, February, March time, have some conversations with teams.
Hmm.
Just, and teams also want that, like they want to know what riders I have available, and we send an update out in January time of all the riders that we have up for contract. But it's just like a small snippet, and then I try and have calls with teams and just to kind of trying to understand what they're looking for, like what gaps they're trying to fill. So if they need a sprinter, or if they've
Hmm.
got like a Lucinda Brand, for example, if she's retiring, if they need a rider that's going to fill that role, which is a pretty hard one to fill, but
Yeah.
yeah, so just kind of understanding what gaps need to be filled in teams. And then I also like to have calls just explaining what riders I have and what their strengths are, and just like giving them a little bit of a personality insight into riders I've got and like their strengths and what they're good at. So I think, yeah, like it's just about communication. But teams, I mean, teams aren't going to be secretive because a lot of the time I've got a rider that they want.
Yeah.
So they're going to say like, I want that. This is the kind of rider we want. We're pretty serious about this rider. Can you please arrange a call? And that's what we do. You know, like even if a rider's not really into it, it's really good for them to just get like understanding of those teams and how they work. But yeah, like teams, they won't like say specifically who they're signing. Sometimes they do. But yeah, they'll definitely let us know what they're looking for. They're looking for a classics rider, a climber, a young rider, an experienced rider, and things like that. So it gives us like an idea of what riders we should really push to what teams, and what teams we know that rider they're not looking for that. So let's spend our energy somewhere else.
Wow, that it's just so fascinating. Like, because yeah, there's so much that goes into it that you don't even think about almost. I guess it's that not knowing what you don't know, and therefore you would
Yeah,
never
yeah,
think to ask about. But it's like, yeah,
yeah.
it sounds like a real holistic job. It's not just a one and done, as you said. Like you just appear in contract year, sort a few people out, and then
Mm.
you know disappear again, like almost like a genie being summoned from a lamp.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, do you ever think like, well, I guess like yeah, what does the future hold for you? I ask this for everyone, and normally if it's a rider, it's like okay, this is what's happening next season. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's different in this context. But yeah, what's next year looking like? I know you said or kind of alluded to that 2027 is technically already here for you. Yeah, what's the next few months and next season looking like?
It's looking busy. But no, it's no, I'm pretty excited for next year's contract window because we've got a lot of good riders up for contract. Um, which it's quite exciting when it's like that, you know,
Mm.
like when you've got riders that are performing and teams are already asking about, you know, like it's going to be busy, but it's going to be like good and rewarding. Um, but yeah, I mean, after this weekend, we've got to wait a few months before there's racing coming up, which is a shame. But no, I think it's just for me now, like I'll go down to Girona next week and I'll be at the office that we have in Girona, seeing some of the agents. Um, and then just kind of just catching up with all the riders. I always make sure I give them like their off season. You know, no one wants to be discussing 2027 and the 2025 off season. You know, it's not really fair. But definitely, it's like after off season, everyone resets. You know, like you're building up again, and then you start thinking about like your future and what you want it to look like, and that's also when you start really like starting to talk to teams as well, and just starting those conversations. So yeah, it's looking busy, but it's looking good. I feel like I've only been doing this 2 years, but I had to learn quickly on the job. And this year I felt like I've made quite a few strides in it. So yeah, it's just about like getting experience. But I'm really enjoying it. This year was a bit. I had a daughter in last July, so it was all a bit like trying to maneuver, work, going to races, and having a newborn. But she's now at nursery, daycare, so now I've got my days free again. And then I'm definitely going to try and get to some more races. So come up to the spring races, and just see riders on the road. I'm lucky enough that I live in Andorra, which I do get to see a lot of riders face to face, which I really like. And then I can go down to Girona as well, where a lot of them are, and see them face to face as well. So that's what I think is really, really valuable. You know, you spend so much time on phones and on screens like us that actually sitting down and seeing a rider is really valuable.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, how I guess everything can change, and seeing people in person does make a difference. And just a bit of a curveball question I didn't even think of before. Like, if your daughter grew up and wanted to be a cyclist, would you represent her? And like, B, would you actually encourage her to be a cyclist, or would you go, actually, like, I've been through it. There's elements that you want to avoid.
I don't know. A lot of people ask me that. I'll never stop her. I'll never stop her doing it. She's going to have bikes in her life probably. We go to school and she's on the back of my bike, you know, so bikes are always there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's different when you've been in the peloton and you know the dangers, especially now, like the crashing, like you don't just get a few cuts and bruises now. It's like you're in hospital, it feels like. So no, I'm never going to stop her doing anything. But I mean, it's all dangerous. Like we live in a ski resort. She'll be skiing in 2 years' time, you know. So, but no, I'm kind of pushing golf or something like that. Something that you just get a sore shoulder, you know, nothing too serious. But no, she likes putting her helmet on, and she's nearly big enough for a little strider bike that she's got. So, but I guess like that's the thing, that her mum and dad both raced professionally for a long time, but she's never seen us do that.
Yeah.
So she doesn't actually know that it's like a thing that you do. She doesn't know. But we both work in it, you know, like we both, there's always cycling on the telly, or we'll go to a bike race. Like she's been to the Vuelta and she's seen the Giro. So yeah, she's seen a lot of bike racing. She knows cycling's part of her life, but she doesn't really, now she has no idea that her dad's got 2 Olympic medals, you know, and her mum won the world championship. So it's, one day we can tell her that. But yeah, for now, cycling is just, like football. Football's always on the telly, you know, we're always speaking about football. So, I'm just hoping she's sporty, because she's in a cool place to be sporty. She's got 2 sporty parents. So, any sport. She can do any sport, but cycling, I think, like now I look back and I think to mum and dad, like when Alice was still racing, I like didn't fully relax. But I can't imagine what mum and dad, by the end of our career, they didn't even look or care where we were racing, because they just wanted to completely forget about it, you know. They were just like, oh, I can't handle this stress anymore. So
yeah. And when you're talking about like the fact that she's not seen you as a racer, like I don't know how familiar you are with music, but like Mike Shinoda, the guitarist from Linkin Park, like he once gave his daughter some guitar tips, and she sort of fobbed him off of like, what do you know? Because she just didn't know who he was. And it's like, could you imagine like giving your daughter bike tips? It's like, whatever. Without realizing. I just think that would be so funny to pull, and then you've got that power card of like, I was world champ. So, kind of listen. But like, how can people follow you and follow, I guess, the goings on of SEG online? Is there an easy like social media or anything like that to follow?
So on Instagram there's SEG Cycling, which has like all the latest wins that the riders have and the latest transfers and signings. So you can look there. Or my Instagram, I guess. I'll post whatever transfers happen and will go up on my story. But I mean, if any riders live in Holland, we've got our HQ is in Amsterdam, so that's where our main office is, and there's a gym there. So it's also a big football agency as well. So at the offices that we have in Amsterdam at the HQ, there's a gym. So they've just put a big gym in there. We've got 3 physios that are based there as well that anyone can go to if they need any help with any injuries. And then there's a cycling lab as well. So you can go there, do testing, get a bike fit. So that's there. And then there is the office in Girona as well, which there's nearly always someone just in there tapping away on their laptop. So we're approachable, and we're spread out, like in all the big cycling hubs. But no, it's a big company, which I think is really why over the last 2 years I've progressed so fast, because I've just had so much knowledge and expertise to learn from. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see what transfers get brought about, and like it's such an amazing and cool thing that you're doing. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That was a lovely chat between myself and Hannah Bewley, or Hannah Barnes. I did clarify that at the start. There is a distinction. Long story, but if you're listening at the start, you'll know. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know I certainly did. She's a rider I've been kind of interested in chatting with for a long time. So it's finally nice to get to chat to her. And until next time.